Okay, hi everyone. My name is Renee Leblanc, and I'm a dietitian, and I'm here tonight to talk about menu planning. So I'm hoping that you're going to learn a couple new things. I brought a lot of resources with me that you guys can use later on, and we'll go through the resources as we go along during the session so that you know how to use them or what they're for. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask me during the session because you might forget, and your questions are important and they probably are good, so we will go through them. So how many people have asked themselves this question, what shall we eat tonight? Or what am I going to make for supper? Or what am I going to make for lunch? I'm hoping that the information that you get tonight will help you have a solution to this question so that you don't have to ask it very often. So basically when we talk about menu planning and making healthy meals, we have to know a little bit what healthy meals or what healthy eating means. So basically having a healthy diet or having a healthy menu means that you have to try and have the correct number of servings from the food guide. So that's important to have at least the minimum for each day. Making sure that your meals and snacks are well balanced. And we'll see after that how many food groups you're supposed to have at breakfast or lunch or supper or for snacks. Making sure that you have a good variety in your diet. So it is good to eat carrots, but if you eat carrots all the time and nothing else but carrots, then you may find that you're missing out on certain things. Eating regularly, so making sure that you have meals and snacks planned out so that you don't get too hungry. And making sure that your meals are planned in advance so that you do get all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the food groups in for your day. So basically, what we're going to use today will be your menu planner, and we'll have a grocery list, and, well, the grocery list is part of the menu planner, and we'll talk a little bit about recipes, so making sure that you know what you're going to make and trying to find different ideas, because sometimes we do run out of things to cook, so that'll be helpful too. Your menu planner. This is basically a pretty useful tool, I hope anyway. It is an erasable board, so you can use it over and over again. And you do have your grocery list, like I mentioned here, that we'll talk about a little bit later on. So basically this tool should help you plan your meals in advance. Whether you're planning breakfast or lunch or supper, it's up to you. I always tell people to sort of start small. So don't try and have all the menu planner filled out in one day because you might find it overwhelming and then you might just put it in the garbage and not want to use it again. So I tell people if you plan a couple of suppers for starters or if you plan a couple of lunches, that's fine. That'll help you to eventually have a full menu. And once you have a full menu, I'm not sure if he's photocopied or not. I'm telling you to recycle your menus, but if you put this in a photocopy machine, it might crumble up. But anyways, you can either copy them on another sheet and then have photocopy so that you can recycle your menu. So you don't have to do 20 or 30 of them. You can do 4 or 5 and then have and reuse them each week. And basically the way that I plan my menus out, I try to plan them according to my grocery list or vice versa. Look at what's on sale for the week and then try to plan accordingly with different vegetables, fruit, meat and alternatives, different things. So hopefully this will help you out. People often say, why should I menu plan? Why is it important, or why should I not waste my time, but why should I spend time menu planning? Well, first of all, it will save you some time. If you know what you're making for the week, you don't have to get home, start thinking, start running around, do I have the ingredients, do I have this, is it in the freezer? Everything should sort of be ready for you to take and to make your meal. You can avoid last minute meal decisions. So hopefully when you get home and you're hungry, it's easy to grab for hot dogs. It's easy to grab for frozen pepperoni pizza when it's already done for you. So if you plan out, hopefully your meals will be healthier and will have more of the food groups in. You can save money because basically the ingredients that you have you'll hopefully use. Instead of having a freezer full of meat or even a fridge full of vegetables and then you open it up at the end of the week and most of it has gone bad, so you have to throw it out. So hopefully it'll help with that. If you plan your meals, hopefully they will be balanced. So that means you will be getting most of your vitamins and minerals. And it saves energy because you don't have to stress over what to make for the family, and then you have the kids running around and they're hungry and everybody's pulling you in different directions. So hopefully this will save your energy and some stress. To have balanced meals or to have meals that are considered healthy, you should try to have foods from all of the food groups in one meal. Now for breakfast, usually we might say that people should try to have at least 3 food groups. Because we know that most of the time it might be cereal with milk and a piece of fruit, which is fine. But for lunch and supper, if you can try to have foods from the 4 food groups, that would be the best thing, so that your meals would be complete. Yeah, so I just mentioned lunch and dinner, and you have a couple of examples here. So for example, it could be salmon with brown rice, veggies, and yogurt. Or you could have chicken fajitas with veggies and cheese. Or roast beef sandwich with vegetable soup and a glass of milk. So I've tried to include meals where you can have 4 food groups. And one thing the menu planner can also be used for is if people don't want to write down their meals, they can check off the servings from each of the food group as they eat them. So some people do check marks each time they have a fruit or vegetable. So depending on how you want to use it, you can use it that way to keep track of what you're eating. Although, you do have this little tool here that can help you out in keeping track of what you're eating. So you have your wheel inside here, which you have to find your age group in there. And then after that, you have all the different food groups where you can keep track of each serving that you're eating. So these two can go hand in hand if you want to use them both. For snacking, it is important to try to incorporate snacks in your day, because most of the time if we wait too long before eating, we end up being extremely hungry, and then we will grab for whatever it is that's close to us. And usually it's not always the best choices of food. So a couple of snacks a day are fine. For the snacks, usually I try to recommend that people try to have 1 to 2 food groups. So hopefully they can try to combine something that has carbohydrates, so either a fruit, or it could be yogurt, or it could be a grain product, with something that has protein. So it could be peanut butter, it could be nuts. So you have at least both. It would be a more not sustainable, but filling snack? Yes, filling snack. So here I put a couple of examples. So veggie sticks with hummus, or fruit with yogurt dip. It could be a smoothie, it could be crackers and cheese, it could be a banana with some peanut butter, whatever you guys like. And you will also find in this brochure, the Healthy Weight brochure, there are examples of snacks, and there are examples of breakfast and lunch and supper. So you can look through it, and hopefully it'll give you some ideas on what to try and plan and what you can use. How many of you here do plan meals regularly? Do some of you plan your meals? No? Do you sort of plan them out in your head, or not at all? Not at all. Okay.
So usually the night before.
Usually the night before. Okay. Well, even there, at least you're planning the night before on what you're supposed to make for the next day, which is good, because most people plan like 5 minutes before. So hopefully this tool might be able to encourage to plan a little bit more. Sometimes people ask how you're supposed to put all your servings in for the day. Because some people tend to look at the food guide and say, I have to eat quite a bit of food. When you look at serving sizes, it's not that much, but basically what I tell people is start with your meals, because it is easier to plan around your meals, and then whatever's left you can fit in as snacks. So if your breakfast has 3 food groups and your lunch and dinner have 4, usually there's a couple servings left for 1 or 2 snacks a day. So there you can start to fit them in. I usually start with the groups that you need the most servings from. So basically that will be your fruits and vegetables, where you need 7 to 8 per day. And try to fit them in first, and then go with the grains, and then the milk, and then the meat. Because these 2 last groups you don't need as much, so it's pretty easy to fill them in somewhere. Shopping tips. How many of you bring a grocery list when you go shopping? Okay, so at least you do. Now, do you follow your list? Okay, pretty good, because a lot of people have a nice little list written down, and then they get to the store, and then they buy all sorts of different things, and they get home and they say, oh, I forgot this, I forgot this. So you have to really try to stick to your list. And shopping on an empty stomach is not really a good idea, because everything you see will look good, and will, even if it's not good for you, it will probably end up in your basket. Basically, I don't know if you've ever noticed when you go in the grocery store, but around the store is where you'll find most of the foods that you find in Canada's food guide. So when you come in, you have your veggies and your fruits, and then after that you have your grains. The bag is usually where your meat is, and then you have your dairy products on the left or the left side of the store. So if you can try and shop around the store as much as possible, you will probably be getting healthier foods. Now there are healthy foods in the aisles, that's not what I mean, but that's where you find also your chips and the chocolate bars and the cookies. So as long as you get your staple foods from there and then shop around the store, hopefully your basket will look and be pretty healthy. Fresh, frozen, or canned? I often get these questions. Should I buy fresh? Should I buy frozen? Like especially for vegetables and for fruit. Basically, if you buy fresh, frozen, or canned, you should get typically close to the same vitamins and minerals. Now, fresh this time of year may not be as fresh because typically we're in the middle of winter. So if we don't grow broccoli here, it has to come from somewhere. So it may not be as fresh as when we plant our own gardens in the summertime. I find that frozen is a great alternative because they do freeze them right away. So at least you're getting most of the nutrients in. And the cans, for fruit, if you're buying them in water or juice, at least you won't be getting added sugar. If you're buying them in syrup, even if it says light syrup, you know that they're adding sugar. Vegetables are the same, they don't add sugar, but you will find most of them have salt. You do have a couple of brands that offer lower sodium or that have less salt, but most people probably don't tend to like them as much for the flavor. So fresh or frozen, usually that would be what I would buy the most. And when you're grocery shopping, one thing to remember is that, especially if you're buying foods that you already have, like for example, if you're buying, I'm thinking of tomato soup because it's something that people tend to use regularly. I always put the newer cans in the back of the pantry and then bring the older cans up front, because you don't want to put all your stock first and then you have all the old cans in the back that you don't use, or if you buy, let's say, meat and you put it in the bottom of the freezer and then start to put your chicken or newer stuff on top, you'll find stuff in the bottom that has been there for maybe 6-7 months and that you have to throw out because it's not good anymore. So yeah, make sure that you rotate. And when you grocery shop, another thing, make sure that you're picking up the ingredients that are cold or that are frozen at the end of your shopping trip, because you don't want to put, let's say, your milk or your frozen fish at the beginning, and then you have to go through the whole store to get all your other items. So the temperature won't be acceptable for these foods, so make sure you pick them up last. So when you're grocery shopping and you have your list, this list you can actually divide them up between food groups. So if you want, you can put your fruits and vegetables in the green and your grains in the yellow. You can divide it up that way, or you can divide it up the way the store is made up. So if you sort of know the store you're shopping at, you can try to maybe list it that way so you don't have to run around all the time. For the different ingredients that you're buying, people often ask, well, what should I buy? What should I look for? Which cracker is the best? Which cereal is the best? There are so many of them. I usually try to compare the nutrition information on the labels. And when you're comparing information, it can get pretty confusing because there is a lot to look at. So I would usually look at the percentage daily value. So if you compare two crackers and one for fat has 10% fat and the other has 25%, well then you know that probably the 10% one, if you're just looking for fat, would be the better choice. Usually if values are less than 5%, it means that it's a low value, and if they're more than 15%, it would be a higher value. So for the things that are good for you, like calcium or iron or different things, you would want to have over 15 if you can. And for fat and sodium and cholesterol, you would want to have, no, sugar doesn't have a percentage, no. You would want to have lower than 5% if you can. The ingredient list can also help you see which foods, I guess, would be better. If you have sugar as the first ingredient, maybe that item should be put back on the shelf. So try to, the first ingredients usually is what the food contains the most of. So if it's a healthier, like if it's a whole grain flour, or if it's something of the sort, that would be better than having sugar or salt as your first ingredient for that food. Stick, I guess, to natural foods as much as possible. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean you have to buy the organic foods or whatever. I just mean whatever you're buying that you have to take and make something out of is probably your best bet. If you're buying something that's all ready for you, you know that there probably are going to be preservatives and different things to keep them fresh or fresher tasting. So try to buy these, I guess, less or the least possible if you can. How many people here keep recipes? Do you have like a little recipe book, or do you have a little recipe file on your computer, or yes, no, maybe? I have a file on the computer, but I still have my old little book where I keep the recipes that I make all the time. And I keep looking at different magazines, different things, and when I find something is interesting, I usually rip it out or put it in my drawer, and I try it. If it's good, it goes into my book. If it's not good, it goes in the garbage. So that's one way of making something more interesting, is trying different recipes. I like to try recipes that other people have tried. So if my friend made this lasagna, well, I like to try it because then I can have comments to see if it's good or not. So it's always nice to have. Sharing between your friends, looking into magazines, websites. There's a few websites that I visit quite often for recipes, and it always makes it more interesting. You can plug in your ingredients, and then something comes up that you can make, usually in a short amount of time. So it's always good. Just a couple of meal planning tips. Basically, now, not everybody has time to do this, but if you can try and cut the foods, let's say your veggies, when you buy your peppers and mushrooms and whatever, if you cut them up when you buy them, at least you'll have more chances of using them. Now, yeah, some people sometimes say, well, I buy the pre-cut trays of veggies. They are more expensive, but if you're going to buy a drawer full of veggies, close it up and leave it there for 2 weeks, and then throw it out, you probably would have been better off buying the tray that's already cut up for you, even though it was a little more expensive because you ended up using it. So that's a good way. Then you can use them for stir fries. You can use them for just even as a snack in a baggie, or you'll probably use them a lot more than if they're hidden or if they're not cut up. For foods like rice, pasta, when I cook them, I usually try to cook a little bit more so that I can have leftovers. I don't necessarily make the same meal out of it twice, but I may make, I don't know, a chicken, not fried rice, but like a chicken rice with vegetables one day, and then keep some of the white rice and make like a tomato soup the next. So it's something that you can reuse, so you don't have to be cooking all the time. Same goes for pasta. You can make so many things out of it, so why not cook a little bit more, and then you can have a couple of meals out of it. Meat is the same. The only thing is that meat, you can't keep it in the fridge for 4 or 5 days. Once it's cooked 1 or 2 days, then you have to use it up. But if you want to cook an extra chicken breast or a little bit more beef or pork to use in a sandwich the following day, that could help you out and could save you some time also. Sometimes even using foods that are ready. Now, not like I was talking about earlier, like let's say a meal that's already made, but if you buy like a bag of salad, like of lettuce, or if you buy the vegetables that are cut up, if you buy the barbecue chickens and you take the skin off, these are all things you can use to make a fairly quick meal that's still healthy. So even if you have to buy something that's pre-washed or that's pre-cut for you, you can still make something good for supper in a little amount of time if you don't have a lot of time on that day. And how many people here own a slow cooker? Okay, and do you use it quite often, or? Okay, I use it pretty much all the time to make my meat. Just put the meat in the morning, and then you don't have to worry about it for the day. But that's, if you don't have one, that's something that's pretty interesting and that's pretty useful. If you're making extra casseroles like lasagnas, shepherd's pie, you can always freeze them. I know that some people sometimes have a party like with friends, and they cook and they can, you know, give each other some of the recipes that they're making. So if they're making, one's making lasagna and others making something else, you can exchange your meals.
We had that for a potluck at work. Actually, everybody brought in their recipes for.
Oh, well that's good. So you get to taste it, and then you have the recipe. If you like it, you can make it then. Yeah. So, and that's always fun. If you have a cooking party, to bring the recipes or a potluck. Yeah. And then make sure you have all the ingredients on hand when you want to cook something. Because there's nothing more frustrating than cooking or wanting to make a recipe and there's something missing. So that's something that's important. These were just a couple of meal tips for people that have slow cookers, just different ideas. But basically, whatever you want to cook in there, you can make. And I have a recipe book with different recipes because I don't always know how much time you're supposed to cook them in, but that's very useful too. Freezer, the same thing. You can freeze pretty much anything. Sometimes I know people say potatoes don't freeze as well, but anything else usually you can make extra if you're making chili or spaghetti sauce or meatballs, and you can freeze them so that you can take them out again, and it will be easier for you. So this was just an example. Now, I told you earlier that you guys didn't have to have all of this mapped out, but basically, I just tried to show here how that you can make your meals. And one thing that I usually tell people, or that I try to stress, is that try to reuse your ingredients so that you don't have to buy 10 different vegetables or 10 different fruit that week. Try to find recipes or ideas where you can use that same vegetable or that same meat, or so that your grocery list still stays, you know, quite small or with a minimum of ingredients. So basically, I would underline the things that I would use more than once. So if I use milk or chicken, I would underline to say how I used it and in what meal. So this is just an example that you can follow if you're not sure how to go about. And I guess that's it. I went pretty quickly, didn't I? Do you have any questions on what I mentioned today?
I think